when I started on the project of Necesse, we had like 30 sound effects. I've made, I think, around 350 sound effects. So it's become much more immersive. You can hear animals when you wander around in the different environments. And just the feedback you get as by playing the game. It's quite nice compared to before, which were like much more, maybe empty is the right word.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I was a little late myself this morning. So, yeah. So I was just busy doing a whole bunch of stuff and just like lost track of time. I'm sure that happens. Yeah. So
definitely. I mean, here in Denmark, it's pitch black right now. It's evening and it's
early.
Winter almost. Yeah,
it gets dark early. Yeah, it's here too. I mean, it's not dark here yet, but but it will be, and it will be fairly early. I'm not a big fan of daylight savings, so
no.
Yeah, I don't know. You deal with it there too, don't you? Do you do daylight savings?
Yeah. So you changed the hours, right?
Yeah. We went back.
Exactly. Yeah, we do that.
1 week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. We did that a couple of weeks ago, and I don't like it either. But I think in the EU they are talking about canceling it or something like. Or at least at some point I heard someone talking about doing something about it, because it doesn't really make sense anymore. I guess back in the old day where you relied on the sun to be out when you needed to work out, I guess it made sense. But now, I mean.
Yeah, now it's just silly. And they talk about it in North America too. They talk about getting rid of it as well. So I don't know. I don't know when it's going to happen. Just no. People talk about it and never do anything about it.
Exactly.
Exactly. As happens often.
Exactly. Yeah. And talking about getting like how to say lost of out of track in terms of time. Because when it gets dark early, you're like, oh, is it that late? And then the hours go by and it's not really that late.
It does strange things to your psyche. I don't know what it is. So, yeah. So I want to start us off by asking you if you have an early memory of how sound moved you, because, we're getting into time and sight, as far as the darkness is outside. But we need to get into sound here.
Definitely.
Yeah. So can you tell me?
I mean, I've thought about that. And I think I may have a couple of first sounds, so to speak, that I remember that kind of set the tone for the direction that I've been going to. So I mean, I was introduced to sci-fi and especially Star Wars and Star Trek in a very early age. I think also in an early age that you maybe wouldn't want to watch those films, but my dad was a huge I don't know. It's like
I don't think there's ever too early.
No, I agree. I mean, I wasn't harmed by it, but I mean, if you look at the PG ratings,
I'm a hopeless geek, so I love all those things, and I am here to tell you that. Well, as far as I know, I have not suffered any detrimental effects from seeing sci-fi early in my youth. Yes.
Yeah. So, but I totally agree, and I think I clearly remember watching Star Wars and all of the soundscapes that is in just that huge universe. TIE fighters flying by, and evil Darth Vader, the scary sound. So that's kind of one element that took me in a direction. But,
well, sure. Also, that would actually put you in touch with some sounds that had never really been made before.
True.
Which is like they're just sounds that were made for the movie, like a lightsaber sound. Yeah. No one had ever done that before.
Exactly. That's really true, and in a very interesting way. To now you need to make something that's it's a sword and it's made of light, and how does that even sound? Yeah, that's quite nice. And from what I recall, they were hitting like wires on a what's it called, like electrician or electrician tower or something like that, or some, yeah, they were hitting it with metal sticks
and then putting it through a fan.
Yeah,
they put it in front of a fan.
Yeah.
That was such an innovative way to do this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
Yeah, so I mean, and that is, I love sci-fi and love watching it and interacting with it now. But I mean, a more romantic side of the first sound for me was actually my dad playing music. Especially, he's a guitarist and have a studio as well. So often there would be bands in our home. And when I was a little kid, I remember, all of these random people coming into the studio to record. And I clearly remember, I was put to bed, but I could still hear them make music. And like, it was a vast different types of people, some metal, some more classical, some school projects or whatever. So I mean, not particularly one sound, but, the essence of the music being made in the house, yeah, or around the house, yeah. So I think that's like the first kind of sound. So not one in particular, but yeah.
Yeah. So did you say both of your parents were involved in music?
My mom is how do you say preschool teacher, I think. Okay. But she also did play piano and stuff like that. But mostly my dad is a musician. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
That's nice.
It's so interesting to grow up in a house that has appreciation for music, even if they're not musical themselves. But if they are musical themselves, they definitely have that appreciation and the encouragement that you would have gotten to make your own music is very important in later development too, because I think a lot of us are shaped by what our parents tell us is good and bad, right? And if they're saying, oh, you can't make a living at that,
exactly,
then you just leave it, right? You just don't do anything with it. I think a lot of people suffer from that, unfortunately. And
unfortunately.
Yeah, music is such an expression of self that I find it so... I almost find it upsetting to hear of other people's childhoods where they were not encouraged to make music.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's sad. But I mean, for me, luckily, I had parents who supported and even, just said, like, I played drums in an early age. So they sent me to the music school to play drums. My mom wanted me to play the cornet, that is like a smaller trumpet version. So she got involved in the local brass band, and then sent me off to there and said, like, these are nice people, and we were all children growing up together playing in the children brass band or child brass band. I'm not sure what you call that, but
sure,
youth brass band maybe. And growing up with that, so yeah, and also like I wanted to play cello at a time. So my dad, he arranged with the cello teacher to do some recordings for him, and then he would teach me as well.
The barter system. Gotta love that. The barter system. Yeah, exactly. Gotta love that.
That's so nice. That's so nice. Yeah. And also because I only lasted 1 year playing cello, but
oh well.
Nice.
Some things you find are your thing, and some things you find are not. Yeah,
definitely.
But so you were playing mostly classical stuff then for a while. How did you get into doing your own music?
So I went to it's in Denmark. It's called efterskole in Danish, and that is like similar to a high school or college, where you live abroad for 1 year between your preschool, and then when you go into what we call gymnasium, which may be your also high school-ish.
So how old were you around?
How old was I? 16-ish, 17-ish, yeah.
Sure.
It's like 10th grade, I think.
Okay.
It's like around that time.
That makes sense,
Yeah, so it's something a lot of Danes do before they go into the gymnasium or high school or college or whatever you call it, before university, like there's a gap in between. But yeah, when I went to this special school in Denmark that is only for classical music, and being there, being part of that, I played French horn at this time. I started, to have ear training and music theory and all of that, which kind of led me on a path to try to make my own. I'm not sure, where it sprung from, but I think I always been interested in doing music, and I've been, putting together sample stuff where you could just plug and play in different music programs. So I started doing it back then, and then all the way through my high school or college or whatever you call it, I evolved doing more of it. I still played a lot of classical music, and I think also the classical music in me kind of also affected the way that I did music, or at least my understanding of it. But especially also, as I mentioned at the beginning, the sci-fi and the movie universe. I love, fantasy movies and Harry Potter, stuff like that, and also listening to the music, Hans Zimmer, John Williams, all of those.
Yeah, the greats.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly, and of course a lot. Like many more other composers as well, but yeah, just to name some of them. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So are you making like soundtracks for like film? Are you thinking of, or I know you're in gaming right now.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
yes.
How did that progress? Like, were you making stuff for like just singer-songwriter stuff? Were you making music for films? And then how did that get into gaming?
Yeah. So actually I started by doing sort of classical music. I tried to do my own classical music. I was so ambitious. I wanted to start to write an opera. But I didn't finish it yet. Yeah, exactly.
That's big.
I wanted to do it. I was very motivated, and I told people about it and stuff like that.
How far did you get?
Not very far. Maybe a few pages or something like that. But yeah,
that's huge.
I mean, if you only have two instruments playing, then. But yeah,
wow.
So that was kind of the start. But then later on, I started doing jingles for random stuff online. I started out on Fiverr doing music for people who wrote me. So that could be very, very much different or many different things.
So for advertising or?
Yeah, but people with their own projects. So, a person with a podcast, for example, would then hire me to do an intro to the podcast. Or
sure,
yeah,
I've hired someone to do
exactly.
that. Yeah,
and I had a teacher who wanted to. They were playing some game in her school class, and she wanted it to be driven by some music. So I mean, lots of different things. So it was kind of a student job. And then one of my friends told me that people like to have like epic music and stuff like that. So you should start doing that. So I said, okay, yeah, let me do that. So I did that. And then, due to interest in film, I wanted to do something like that. So I started to get in a community with some directors for short films. And yeah, then it kind of went off that way. And then when I moved to Aarhus, where I'm living now, to study, we have this incubator for game companies. And I also, during my youth, I played a lot of video games and was also inspired by those making music for video games because of the immersiveness. I thought it was so awesome to just, live in these universes and be immersed in the world, both with the sound effects, but also especially with the music.
Yeah, especially now that the ability of the music you can hear in these video games is getting so high.
Yeah,
like the actual
evolving.
Production value in these are going way up. So yeah, it is almost like scoring a movie.
Definitely, and maybe even, I don't know. I think it's you can compare it completely, but maybe even harder because there's so much more to do. Maybe the deadlines are less, squished together because on a film you are very, very like just almost at the end of the film with the music you need to do, whereas in games maybe you're on the project for a longer time. But yeah, then I started. I showed up at this incubator with game companies, and I was like, "This is me. I do music. I want to do music for games." And then some of the guys there, they said, "Hey, we want to work with you," and we worked together for, just as a hobby project. And then one day they got some funding, and then kind of the ball was rolling. They hired me, and I got to know, a large community of game developers here in Denmark, especially. And that was kind of the path that led me in that direction.
Sure. Was that Necesse, or was that how you got to
That was how
Necesse?
I got to Necesse, yeah.
Okay, got it.
This was it's a game studio called Chop Chop Games, who are working on a rather large game now, actually, a roguelite auto battler card game. But I'm due to time, I'm not on that project, unfortunately. But they are funded by Ghost Ship Games, who did what's it called? Deep Rock Galactic and Deep Rock Survivor, if you know those games. They are huge titles coming from Denmark. So yeah, that's quite nice.
Hi, this is Joshua Sui, and you're listening to the Audio Branding Podcast, a great place to learn about how powerful sound can be. If you want to understand how to harness that power in your own life, please keep listening.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see that being developed right where you are, because that's just so cool. There's so much that goes into these scoring for video games, though, that it kind of seems like it would be different for movies in that you're also designing are you also designing the sound, not just the music? Because the sound in these has to be all over, like you have to hear it from different angles, you have to be aware of how someone would walk and what they're walking on, and the UI sounds of the menu in there's a whole lot that goes into this. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I for Necesse and a lot of the games that I've worked on previously, I also did the sound design, which is it's a hard thing to do because it's a lot of work doing the music. Especially for Necesse, I've made over 60 tracks for the game, of like 2 to 4 minutes in length. But then also having to do the sound design. But I think, I like the way that, because you make the game so much more immersive. When I started on the project of Necesse, we had like 30 sound effects. I've made, I think, around 350 sound effects. So it's become much more immersive. You can hear animals when you wander around in the different environments. And just the feedback you get as by playing the game, it's quite nice compared to before, which were like much more, maybe empty is the right word. Yeah,
it's funny that sound is one of those things that we don't notice unless it's bad.
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't gotten really much feedback about the sounds. So I mean, I think that's a good thing.
People must get immersed into the game, which exactly. I guess is the point, right?
Yeah. When I tested out all of the sound, I did some, videos where I was just wandering around for 15, 20 minutes, not doing anything, just experiencing the environment. And that's quite nice, especially because Necesse is a 2D top-down game. So, yeah, that's to get that immersiveness, that's quite nice. Hello everyone, I'm Rune, the composer and sound designer of Necesse. If you haven't seen already, one of the new features coming to Necesse 1.0 is a complete overhaul of the sound design in Necesse, adding even more sounds to the weapons, the mobs, and the animals, which you will see throughout your adventure in Necesse 1.0. One of the things that I am most excited about is the new ambience added to Necesse. Each area now greets you with a small, unmistakable feeling, a gentle movement in the forest, a dry hush in the desert, and a bit of life around your settlement. This is the result of bringing life to all of the animals in Necesse. Birds will now greet you, squirrels will squeak, and even the dogs will say hi. I used a software instrument, a synthesizer, which is called the Sinclair. Through this, as you can see here, I designed it to make bird-like sounds. And then I recorded a bunch of them and then put it into the game. One of the greatest additions to the Necesse 1.0 sound design is, for me, the bosses. A bunch of new sound design is coming to your boss fights. I am looking so much forward to hearing about your experience in the boss fights.
From the sound design of the game to the UI or UX experience of the menu items and things like that, like how do you design good sounds for a menu? Because that's got to be, well, difficult in the sense that people are going to be using that thing so many times that you can't make it annoying.
I think you're so right. I mean, the thing that we did was to keep it simple. So we actually just have one sound, which is like a tick sound when you press buttons, which makes it, it's a sound that is in frequencies, not annoying to listen to.
Well, you get feedback, so
exactly.
You know you're doing something.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's similar to a mouse clicking sound, but it's the only thing that you will hear. If not only when you are turning up and down the volume, you will hear what you're turning up. If it's sound design or music, you will hear a bit of music. But that is the only thing that we have done, for example, in Necesse, just to, as you say, not make it annoying, because people are spending a lot of time in these menus, especially in a game like Necesse where you have to handle a lot of stuff and be crafting and doing sorting and all those things. So that was kind of the approach.
Sure. Have you worked on other games besides Necesse? I know that Necesse is probably the biggest
one. Yeah. So I've worked on a couple. A short, very small one called Minecraft. It's an arcade game, I think it's called, where you are this small rock. And your girlfriend is taken from you, and you then have to fight your way through the evil robots who are mining the ground.
That sounds adorable.
Yeah, it's quite cool. It's quite nice. But so it's similar to Super Meat Boy, I think, and it's so damn hard. And I mean, without cheats, I cannot come past some of the first level because it's just hardcore. But then you wander your way around, and there's a lot of assignments that you have to do, and you get powers as you go along. So I did the sound design and music for that, which also was
quite different from Necesse. Like when you were obviously the thing that you are is different.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean also so the similar thing is that it's both electronic music in these two games, but I think so in Minecraft we also kind of used some adaptive music. So because you gain speed if you are going down a hill or something like that, or a hole. So if you have high speed, the music will change into different adaptive layers. Whereas in Necesse, it's not so much adaptive as it is just, regular music soundtrack playing the same looping,
environmental.
Yeah, exactly. And so we have a few places where we do have some immersiveness where it changes from if you're fighting a boss and the boss is evolving, you also have a new track for the new involvement of the boss. but other than that, it's very linear. But yeah, so for Minecraft, but also I think it was very mechanical. So you have these robots, and the robots are mechanical, and you can kind of see their gears and all of that. And the
so
steam.
Deliberately so.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
And it was a little bit sci-fi also. So that was a different, sound in terms of that. Where in Necesse, it was more, it's fantasy, and we have fantasy, but we also have mine carts and like shotguns and whatever. So it's like it's a little bit of a mixture, but it doesn't have to be something that you kind of know. Whereas in the other one, we kind of knew what we were going to. The last project that I've worked on recently, which unfortunately got cancelled, but then evolved into the new project that I mentioned before that Chop Chop is doing. So that was like a dystopian world sci-fi thing, also an auto battler, but and that was actually mainly symphonic music, but again it was sci-fi, so I was able to design a lot of sounds that people did not hear before. Like if I wanted this specific thing to sound like what I thought was the right sound, then I could do that because no one knew what it was, or like if it gave the right feedback, then that was perfect.
Sure. Yeah. It's really fascinating how games are made sound wise. I mean, all wise, really.
Yeah. Definitely.
But you're a board member of Game Audio Denmark, right? Yeah. So, what are the trends that you've seen in how games are using sound in a way? Maybe not even the ones that you've worked on, but how is it developing? And actually, to add on to that, are a lot of them using voice actors these days, or they're just not doing that?
So I've talked to a lot of my colleagues in Denmark of audio design who use a lot of voice recording and spend a lot of time setting up nice systems with the voice actor, so you're able to actually make it easier for yourself, but also for the actor doing it. But yeah, I mean, so I think in Denmark particularly, we have a lot of creative projects that's also working into what's it called, where you have your phone and you kind of see the world in front of you through your phone.
Oh, like the Pokemon game.
Yeah, exactly. Like stuff like that. And I think...
What do they call that? Like, it's not virtual reality, I guess. It's something else. I can't remember what they call
AR,
it.
maybe?
Yeah, augmented reality.
Augmented reality, yes.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
right. Yeah, exactly. So I've seen some examples of that, and that I think that's pretty cool. And also, when you have your phone and you need your phone to make sound that is immersive, or you have then it's headphones, of course it's better, but it's interesting to see with like what can you do with a phone with the sound coming out of the phone, which is also getting better, the technology in phones.
Sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I think in terms of trends, that is the most part from what I see. Like people try to make immersive worlds that are standing out more than just being, if you use a Unity to make something, or so make it more creative, making your own world, make it hand drawn instead. And one of the games that is being developed here in Aarhus is Out of Words now, and that is a cool project.
It's called Out of Words.
Out of Words, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can send you a link afterwards. And
sure.
Yeah,
really interesting. And you said it's claymation? Is it like?
Yeah.
That's so
they
fantastic.
animate everything and then put it into the game.
All done by hand.
Yeah.
By human hands.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm now amazed, especially since the next question that I'm going to ask you has to do with AI, of course.
Yeah.
Like how much impact are you seeing that make on the industry right now? And is it sound-wise, visual-wise? Like, is it replacing, or are people just
So I think,
using it.
there in Denmark, our pro organization just launched a huge lawsuit against Suno for copywriting artists like Aqua, who are, I'm a Barbie girl and stuff like that.
As far as I understand, Denmark is the first country in the EU to put forth a bill to copyright voice and likeness.
That's definitely another thing.
Very much.
Exactly. That's what that means for us is that, if you have a phone call and someone is recording it, it's illegal if they record it, without your permission, and then also to use it.
Well, that's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. And if you like what you heard, why not tell a friend about this podcast? It's available in all the usual locations. Until next time.